Hello and welcome. You're watching India Ascends. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. The next 30 minutes, we get you all the stories that matter to the global Indian. As always, we start with the headlines that you're tracking on the show. First up, BRICS united against Donald Trump's tariff tantrums. Trump rules out India talks. Who faces the brunt? We tell you whether it'll be the American user who will have to face Donald Trump's tariff tantrum. India's power play takes on bully Trump. NSA Doval in Russia. Prime Minister Modi all set to visit China. This is what Donald Trump has been able to achieve. Power play by BRICS and India, ensuring its interests are protected. Pak Army Chief Asim Munir all set to visit the US for the second time. Will Trump woo Munir in Nobel pursuit? We tell you more. Bangladesh marks turbulent year under Mohammad Yunus's government. It's been a year since Sheikh Hasina's exit. Dhaka is set to hold elections in February 2026. Will those elections be free and fair? We tell you more. Over 25 shots fired at Kapil Sharma's Canada Cafe. The second time the cafe has been targeted in a single month. What does this mean? Who really is the one behind it? We tell you more of that. The big story that we're tracking on the show this evening. In typical Trump fashion, US President has come out with a fresh tantrum against good old friend India. He's gone on to say that even as I've imposed fresh tariffs of 50%, there will not be any trade talks that will take place, which means that negotiations that were to continue have suddenly gone into deep freeze. Now, this is a decision that Washington has taken, which many feel that it may have to bitterly regret going on, because it's not Indians but Americans that Trump may end up exposing more, with ensuring that there are no trade negotiations that may happen. And these tariffs, while one may think it will impact Indians, it could actually hurt the American user as well. Trump is deceiving his own public. In reality, he's hitting American consumers who buy imports from foreign countries. Now, all facing tariffs. Well, dear Americans, you will pay more for everything, whether it's clothes, iPhones, medicines, everything. Because till now, none of this is being made locally, but imports ensured that you could get them cheap. It worked fine till now because there were lower tariffs. It was cheaper to import than to actually make this in America. Now that option has suddenly gone away because your president, dear Americans, let's be clear, he wants that there should be huge tariffs because he feels billions of dollars are actually coming into the US and he's doing you and the American economy a favor. But let's be very clear, it's not India that's paying for those billions of dollars. He's claimed 50 billion, fact is it's $31 billion that's come in. It's the American companies that are paying for goods that have now become costly. Yes, there will be reduced exports and it will hurt India as well, just as it will hurt America. This is a two-way street. At no point of time, Donald Trump should think that this is only hurting India and not the American user. Well, there's more. There could potentially be a dollar crash. It will impoverish Americans since the overvalued dollar determines their living standards. And in the process, foreign consumers will be enriched. Well, American consumers, you're actually looking at the death of your American consumerism and the rise of the emerging market consumer. What that means? Well, that means all companies, all consuming patterns, all of that could change and tilt towards the emerging market consumer. And India, mind you, will lead the way. With the BRICS and a growing alliance of emerging economies coming together, united against the American hegemony. So some need a plane, viewers. Some need to give gold phones as well. Some need to give a soccer ball. All to be on the right side of Donald Trump, lest he comes up with ad hoc and arbitrary announcements. New Delhi has thrown down the gauntlet. It doesn't need to do any of this. it's not backing away. It's charging straight into the storm, determined to take Trump head-on, and it's not standing alone, shoulder to shoulder with some of the other biggest emerging market economies and growth engines in the world, whether it's Brazil, whether it's China. This BRICS alliance is forging an unyielding front. The message is loud and clear. The pressure will not ease, the unity will not crack. And it's only a matter of time before Donald Trump is forced to bend. Trump can keep dancing on top of the White House, but he should at no point of time think that India will dance to his tunes. If anything, we in India are expecting him to chicken out, like always, after he meets Russian President Vladimir Putin next week in UAE, and suddenly he will not think that Russia is that big an enemy, and all of this posturing may just change. The first wide-angle story on the show, BRICS nations are challenging US hegemony. And this week, Donald Trump has imposed that 25% tariff. Now, Trump was expecting that India will come back on the negotiating table. Instead, what India has done is build on its relationship with Russia and China. Prime Minister Modi will be in China for the first time in 7 years. Vladimir Putin will be in India soon. This is India's power play. America needs to come on the negotiating table on India's terms. It will not happen the other way around. Russia plus China plus India coming together is an equation that even Donald Trump understands cannot be in America's best interests. Let's play out this report that tells you more about this.
Trump has left the building. Over.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency.
What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
A tariff tantrum from the Oval Office. 50% duties on India, accusing New Delhi of supporting the Russian war machine. President Trump's latest America First salvo. With shockwaves across the world, the global south was amongst the hardest hit. And India is caught in the middle of a high-stakes diplomatic balancing act. Despite India's calm yet resolute response, remaining open to negotiations to reach a trade deal, President Trump made his position clear. No more talks until he gets what he wants.
Just to follow up on the India tariffs, do you expect increased trade negotiations, since you've announced the 50% tariff?
No, not until we get it resolved.
New Delhi is not taking this lightly. Already 3 steps ahead of Washington. Amid Trump's tariff tirade, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval was in Moscow. Shoring up ties with Moscow, a message as clear as day. New Delhi's old friendships are going nowhere. Next move, Beijing. Prime Minister Modi is expected to visit China this month. Putting aside their differences, the two Asian giants will navigate between competition and the need for a united front against bully Washington. Brazilian President Lula, also facing the heat of Washington's tariffs, backed India, calling out Trump's tariff pressure in a call with PM Modi. Coming together, the BRICS bloc led by Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are pushing back on President Trump's tariff tantrums. In the BRICS corridors, the message is blunt. They will not tolerate such bullying and are now mapping new routes to bypass Washington's chokehold. Within this diplomatic dance lies India, determined not to choose sides in the never-ending US-Russia competition, protecting access to US markets while boosting ties with Russia, China and Brazil. In this balancing act, one misstep could mean disaster.
Trump's fear may soon become a reality, a BRICS currency replacing American dollar, something that forced Trump to come out with his favorite playbook, which was to threaten tariffs. Well, Mr. Trump, your actions have led to BRICS countries consolidating their joint efforts. They are looking to, in fact, possibly push de-dollarization efforts and increase intra-BRICS trade and challenge American hegemony. Battle lines may be drawn, but for New Delhi, a multilateral approach is its best option to be able to protect itself. How long this balancing act will hold depends on Washington's next move and how far the BRICS as a unit is willing to go. Well, one definitely can say something very clearly, which is that if this is how President Trump threatens his friends, it's high time New Delhi now looks at how best it can protect its interests. All right, one of the first top voices on the show, Professor Jan Oberg, who's spoken about America's impending decline. Dr. Oberg, thanks much for speaking to me on India Sense. You're the director of the Transnational Foundation for Peace and Future Research, joining us from Sweden. Good to have you on the show, sir. Let me start by asking you, you've spoken about America's potential collapse just like the USSR. First of all, let me start by asking you, why do you think this will actually happen?
Well, that's very simple. The Eastern brother, the Soviet Union, went down, and so will the Western brother, because the West is retreating, as is natural, because all empires go down at some point. They go up and then they go down. There's no empires that last forever. And if you look at the indicators, it is things like over-militarization. It's lack of legitimacy in the eyes of others, non-Westerners. It is a weaker economy. It is less cultural power. It is an eternal wish to, it seems, to dominate the world instead of joining and cooperate with the world. And that type of policy has never lasted forever. And it's overextension, with 600 plus military bases, CIA all over the place, etc. These types of systems cannot survive. They have never survived in other empires either. So either the United States will adapt to a multipolar, multinodal, multicultural world, or it will become a periphery in the future. That is, if you look into macro historians like Toynbee and others, you will find out that this is a totally natural process. And you better join the world instead of being confrontational to the rest of the world.
You've spoken about America's downfall. By all accounts, it seems like Donald Trump is hastening that entire process. You agree?
Yeah, the man is destroying the United States. But that's a very sad thing. I've never been anti-American or anti-Western. I'm a product of the West myself. I find it painful every day to see that this is beating up the world. Confrontation threatens militarization, interventions, bombing of Iran, what have you, instead of saying, can we solve some problems together? My prediction is that Mr. Trump will do enormous harm to the United States if he sits for the whole period, which is not sure that he does. And that it is almost shameful and tragic to see that the United States, which you can discuss whether it's a democracy or not, that the United States has not been able to come up with better candidates than him and Kamala Harris. Money runs the whole thing over there. It's not democracy in my view, but that's a long story. But the fact that they have not been able to recruit somebody more professional, more decent, more long-range thinking, and somebody who is not able to do the kind of, if you will, socioeconomic change revolution also in the United States that is needed for it in terms of infrastructure, etc. If they are not able to do that, things will go madly wrong. And what I really am looking into as the great threat is not the United States going down as such. All empires have done that before, as I said. The question is, what do we do in the West when they have seen in the White House and in Washington that the game is over? At that point, we don't have a Gorbachev. We have somebody who I call kakistocracy, also in Europe, that is leadership by the worst people and the least competent people. That is a very dangerous situation for the West. I can only pray that things will go well.
Most importantly, how do you think these tariffs are going to come back and hurt the American economy?
Oh, yes, of course it will, because countries will try to trade somewhere else with other countries. If you look at China, for instance, the percentage of China's foreign trade that is with the US has gone down over time. The rest of the world is fully able. They're not doing it against the West, but in consequence of the Western policies or the US policies and EU policies. You just saw von der Leyen in Beijing. These kinds of things are not ganging up against or threatening the West. These people are just saying we got to cooperate with others because we cannot cooperate with the West anymore. And of course, India will now, I expect, and I think it would be wise, to work much more with China than before. You have all reasons to work together in terms of culture and economic compatibility, etc. And I'm glad to see that there will be a top-level meeting very soon. But it's not because anybody hates the West or wants the West to go down. It's the West which is self-destructive. Its policies are self-destructive and have no analysis of long-term consequences. Look at the sanctions against Russia. Russia is the fourth biggest economy in the world now, or fifth, I'm not sure, depending how you measure, where everybody in the West thought that if we slam sanctions on Russia, they will go down. They will not go down. The whole thing is very bad politics with no analysis of consequences.
Dr. Oberg, this is India's sense, and the first and primary focus here is about India's rise. I have to ask you this: how soon will the fall of America lead to the kind of rise that we're talking about as far as India is concerned as the big superpower?
I think it will. I think it will. I mean, it's embedded in what I'm saying about the decline of the United States and the Western world, the US, NATO, and the European Union. It gives opportunities to the rest. I would like the West to buy into those opportunities. I cannot see why the United States and India cannot work together. Now, obviously, Mr. Trump thinks that if India is cooperating and China is cooperating still with Russia, they should be punished. Excuse me. And Madam von der Leyen sat in Beijing and said that China should put pressure on Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. This is bizarre. This is absurd because the Western world has decided, particularly Europe, not even to apply diplomacy to Putin and Russia, but saying the only thing we do is sanctions, arming Ukraine to defeat Russia. I mean, this is a bizarre theory. It has nothing to do with reality, and these people are doing emotionalism, not politics anymore. I firmly believe that you cannot understand the world by international relations or political science and that type of stuff. It's all into psychology now. It is a psychology of losing. It's a psychology of projection of our own bad sides on everybody else, etc. And that is a very tragic development. I repeat, it's very tragic because the world could be such a wonderful place today where we work together, many different cultures, many different economies. We put it together, unity and diversity. I mean, you know that concept. If you say, I would say, as a Gandhian-inspired person, I would say this is all we could do. We could do fantastic things together in this world, but you cannot get the Western world to cooperate. It wants to do self-destructive isolation. And that is very, very tragic.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Dr. Oberg, for speaking to me on India Sense. Donald Trump is not known for taking long bets. He's a transactional leader. He thinks of the immediate, and that means if he needs a Nobel Peace Prize, then he'll wine and dine with the one person whom he thinks is going to give a letter. Asim Munir is that leader, that particular person who actually gave him that letter. But it's one thing to take short bets, and it's quite another to take wrong ones. That's what US President Donald Trump is doing right now. Asim Munir is in the US for his second visit in as many months. You can say Pakistanis are reading Trump well, or it could just be that how wrong Donald Trump is reading his allegiances, not prioritizing his real allies, looking to build on its relations with Pakistan over India. This is the same country that Donald Trump accused of taking a bribe of over $30 billion over the past decade, of harboring Osama bin Laden. President Trump wants the world to believe that he's the smartest man in the room, yet he makes one bad call after another, from raging a tariff tirade on India, imposing 50% levies on India, to not just cutting tariffs for Pakistan, but inking that fictional oil deal with Islamabad. No one has found oil in Pakistan, not since 1912. Donald Trump thinks he's going to find it. But miscalculations galore. With yet another meeting, potentially, with Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir, Trump is legitimizing what the world fears. A Pakistan where Asim Munir could be the president. Despite numerous denials, there are rumors in Islamabad. The past 1 month has seen a renewed US-Pakistan military engagement, with Munir set to attend the farewell of US Central Command commander, a man who called Pakistan a phenomenal partner in counter-terrorism. The irony is rich. Asim Munir is a failed army chief. He has lost all wars and battles that he's been part of. As Field Marshal, he led Pakistan to yet another defeat during Operation Sindoor. The question is, Trump wants Munir on his side for future conflicts in the Indo-Pacific. Is this how he will counter China in Asia? By mainstreaming China's vassal partner? That's a question that Donald Trump needs to answer. Today marks 1 year of Mohammad Yunus's government in Bangladesh. After the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, this was supposed to be an interim government, viewers, that was meant to pave the way for elections. But instead, what happened was reforms were undertaken, those that should ideally have been undertaken by an elected government. But the biggest highlight of Yunus's 1 year in power has been mainstreaming of radical Islamists, of repeated threats as far as minorities are concerned. Now he's talking about an election still 6 months into the future. Let's now get in BNP's Mirza Alamgir to talk about what this 1 year has been for Bangladesh, for BNP and for the people of the country. Mr. Alamgir, thanks much for speaking to me on India Sense. Let me start by asking you, how would you rate the Yunus government on the scale of 1 to 10?
In fact, the 1 year is not enough for a country which has gone through such a huge mass of surge, which in fact shattered the whole thing. And in fact, in the last 15 years of the past regime, the institutions of the state have completely been devastated. So it was a very big task for the new government, which is quite inexperienced in governance and in running a country. They have tried their best to bring the situation under control, law and situation to improve, the economy to be stable. They have tried their best, and the most important task was the reforms which were promised by the government as well as by the students and the political parties to be completed very fast, as soon as possible. So I think they have done their best as a non-experienced government. They have done quite well.
The big charge against the Yunus government has been that in the last 1 year, it has completely failed in protecting the minorities of Bangladesh. You agree?
That's a totally wrong thing which have been spread as a propaganda. The minorities are very well off now in this country, and they are quite safe. They are secure. They are safe and secure. In the beginning, there were few incidents happened, but which was at that time it was quite normal at that time. No, it was not communal. It was totally political. So I don't think now there is any such grievances, and there is no at present there is no such grievance in the country now. Nobody is asking for it.
Mr. Alamgir, thanks much for speaking to me on NDTV. Let's hope that election process actually happens. Unfortunately, I do not share your level of enthusiasm and optimism.